And you are being recorded, so.
Very good. Thank you so much.
Yeah, of course, and I'll see you a little bit later.
Okay, very good. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Mix it up. Let's mix it Or maybe like one person come up here, join these sides. We got a good mix going on up here. Got a good mix going on over here. Don't feel like there's a lot of people up there. Are you still that way we're more balanced. All right, okay, guys. I am Marcy Contreras. I am PA faculty. I have been here for about a little over 3 years now. I came from Baylor College of Medicine. My area of specialty is neurology. I'm actually an alum of UTMB's. I graduated in 2008. And then just came back and kind of came back home as faculty. So I've really enjoyed it. Human rights is kind of like near and dear to my heart. It's a little passion of mine. Specifically, anti-human trafficking is one of my big passions and something that I do in the community and here on campus teaching how to identify victims of human trafficking. So just to kick off a little bit, so did anybody, would anyone like to share the article that they found pertaining to human rights in your profession? Oh, it's being long.
Mine was about human trafficking, actually. Yeah. And it was just about how trends over time have shown that healthcare professionals in general have become more and more aware about the situation and are learning how to recognize the signs and how better to help these people. It was a healthcare professional article in general, not specific to human professionals.
Awesome. Where did you find it? Do you remember what journal?
I have to look.
Perfect. All right. What else did you guys find? That's it. One person did homework. Yes, sir.
An article on the difficulties in providing like opiate, morphine type medication in Guatemala because of restrictions on similar drugs because of drug trafficking. And physicians are working to try and adjust those restrictions so they can actually prescribe those medicines.
Very interesting. Okay. Very good. What else do you guys got? Yes, ma'am.
Mine was about PAs moving to the Myanmar area.
The what area?
Myanmar, like Burma, to train medics so that they can go out and treat refugees.
To treat them, medical professionals to treat them. Okay,
Yeah,
gotcha.
so they were like training them 2 to 3 years. So they were doing treatments for like PA in the States. But they were calling back medics and they're interested in lives because it's always like minefields and everything. They're hoping to get firsthand to the refugees.
Wow. What else? Anyone from PTOT would like to share? Or CLS? You have any CLS people here? Not tonight? Okay. PTOTs, don't be scared. Nobody. Oh, gosh. All right, we'll get started. Well, good deal. We'll get you warmed up yet, I promise. So tonight we're going to talk about human rights, the history of human rights, the UN, United Nations Declaration of Human Rights, and how that came about. We're going to role play and do some fun role play scenarios, and have debate issue with universality of human rights, and then talk about some kind of more contemporary issues, certainly, that are going on. Okay, so I want you to talk to the people amongst your group and talk about what does the concept of human rights mean? What does that mean to you? Do we need human rights? If so, why? What are basic rights? And not just like what they are, but really, come forth with some good philosophical stuff. Right, chat amongst yourselves.
Things that everyone should have access to.
No.
Well, yeah. Yeah, because it's like essentially that's like the baseline. Person. Yeah, or any sort of like more like the difference between staying alive and self-actualization. Yeah. Just because I mean you could
I didn't.
You were lost and married. It's freaking alive. It's freaking bad. I was like, are you kidding me? I was and this is in the 1960s. Like, this is yeah. Serving some sort of concept, like animals and objects or but
like we're separate and that.
Yeah.
John Locke said something else.
I don't know, we're trying to figure that out. Don't have to be like, I think it's. We made him up to this.
Well, yeah, we don't have a lot of rights as lives. Internal. So I don't know about the same word for friends. Yeah. Have some things be
Oh, he's not quiet.
I know.
that's a
Better,
good human rights.
fall asleep. All right, so what are you guys coming up with? Who wants to share?
Last time it was rowdy, so I think
It's Kasrani?
last time the professor was like, oh, can you?
Oh, really?
Yeah, I did.
Yeah.
Got really nervous.
Awesome.
So I don't, like, that's,
The PAs know how to love Rowdy.
yeah, so like I had to stop asking questions that I shouldn't have.
Oh, let's get crazy. All right. Who wants to share first? What you got? Our quiet back table. Would you like to share first? What? Who?
I think we were discussing that everyone has their basic rights, but through the freedom or you pursue happiness and things, and then you kind of get
Life, liberty,
but then sometimes the lines get blurred and things get a little blurry if you call like I guess I kind of provided an example of when we're out in the field and we want to honor a patient's decision because they have patient autonomy and things like that. But then we also have rules and regulations and stuff that we have to follow because we are an employee of whatever institution we're at. So I mean then that kind of gets tricky. Like do you break a regulation in order to honor that person's decision? Or it's kind of tricky there. But I mean we were just talking about that.
Very good. I like it. What else did you guys come up with? Do we need human rights?
Absolutely.
Why?
We need because it's so innate. Human rights are more than just the innate rights. It's more than life, liberty, and security kind of stuff. You're looking at protections from not only people around you, but people who govern you. So it's more than just you as an individual. It's more of an agreement with society itself.
So do I need protection from the people that govern me?
Absolutely.
Okay.
If you not just, I think it's easy for us in America to be like, oh yeah, we live in a country with freedom and everybody's got our rights, but you can look not that far back and find even violations here. And then around the world, it's not as prominent to have these protections for their citizens. And you can see in certain areas where turmoil is happening right now, where these rights are being violated, where they're using tactics that would not be allowed in those places, just to deal, keep in power.
Yeah. Like right now, today, this stuff is happening right now, this minute. What else?
But it's very important for indigenous, especially in like places where they're minorities, is to have those, because one protection of human rights is to be recognized by the law. Certain situations you can see, even in America's history, where it's a man of African American ethnicity goes missing, his body winds up dead somewhere, and the law just ignores it because they don't see him as a person. That is a huge protection for people, because even if you're a majority, what if that scales turn up? What if you're in an area where you are the minority, and that's how they treat their people?
Absolutely. What else? So like if I'm walking down the street, I have the right to not be murdered. Yeah. That would be nice, right? Absolutely. What about you guys?
So kind of like what she said, it's like sort of the right to not just access to resources, but also to thrive, or self-actualization. To that sort of goes along with freedom, but also being a country, society, and like sort of almost like mutual respect.
So kind of like treat others as you would like to be treated type of thing. That's just a basic thing, right? But like, are we born with this knowledge? Like, our children, do they know how to treat others and that kind of thing? Do they know innately if they deserve something or like a human right?
I think people are selfish until they'll take from others until something gets taken from them. They're like, no, they're not very good. I think we should make up a, like, in like some sort of Lord of the Flies situations, like kids are going to be pretty terrible until stuff starts happening to them, and they're like, well, I think we should do this.
And I don't think human rights, so I don't think human rights are so much something that you're born with. I don't think human rights are for the individual. Like, I think human rights are more of the responsibility of everyone else to treat you a certain way. I don't think they're like, this is something that is inherently innate to me. This is something that I deserve or I have. It's something that everyone around me is like, has a responsibility to upkeep. Like, by nature, like if I'm born now and there's no such thing as human rights, well, like torturing me is not a big deal.
Right.
But it's the responsibility of the society around me
Like
to be
genocide wasn't a big deal until it was happening and everyone found out about it and was like, wait a minute, this is not right. But it wasn't illegal or wasn't like, any issue until it's happening, right?
It's like kind of a responsibility of respect. Like it's like the person's responsibility to treat these people fairly.
What about children? Do they deserve respect? What about, like, in some country where there might be, like, a 4-year-old working in a sweatshop? Do they deserve to maybe not be working in a sweatshop? And why? If that's a commonplace over there. It's difficult because I think we have, or societies, governments come up with these kind of ideologies or kind of aspirations of let's all, treat everyone, a certain way and that type of thing. But really it starts to trickle down and fall apart at the smaller level, right? In the states and that type of thing, like Civil War and all that. Because really, if you think about it, I mean, you look back and, in any Roman times, even in even Abraham Lincoln, didn't he say, like, treat all people, equally and that type of thing, despite, race, color? I mean, Abraham Lincoln said that, and that was still, look at the 1950s. That was just like 50, well, I guess like 70-ish years ago, 50s and 60s, and the Civil Rights Movement. I mean, why are we still treating people that way? So this is not, it wasn't anything new. So definitely some issues. What else did you guys come up with? Anything else? Okay. So moving forward, we debriefed. So really, rights are inherent to all human beings, whatever nationality, place of residence, sex, national or ethnic origin, color, religion, language, any other status, and we're all equally entitled to those human rights without discrimination. These rights are all interrelated, interdependent, and indivisible. So that means that really, the right to freedom or religion or anything else, or to have food or whatever it might be, is really not more important than the other. And in the terms of when we think about human rights, these are basic things. So they're not. One is not more important than the other, I should say. Just concepts, of course, that we've kind of already touched on. Universal, interdependent, interrelated, like I just said. And then also, these are needs, not wants. I mean, my kids may want a flat screen TV. But do they need one? It's like, yeah, they might need one.
I must agree with your point.
Do they need Wi-Fi and Netflix? No, but they want that, right? So we're thinking of like basic human needs and what it might be to help a human being just progress and improve and be a part of society and contribute. So that's the things that we always think about and talk about. Transformative, definitely civil rights and women's right movement are things that kind of come to mind automatically. And let's see if I can make this work. Oh, yeah.
Human rights is, geez, that's a good question. Human rights.
What in the world did I just do? I just stopped the whole damn thing. Sorry.
Geez, that's a good question. Human rights.
Wow.
I don't even know how to give that a definition.
I would probably have to do a little bit of homework or something. Any right, I think just as a normal, human,
The rights that humans have.
this is a very long debate.
Tú le puedes preguntar a 20 personas y te van a dar 20 diferentes opiniones.
We just take it for granted that they're there, but we don't even consider what they are.
Human rights are the rights you have simply because you're human. It's how you instinctively expect and deserve to be treated as a person, like the right to live freely, to speak your mind, and to be treated as an equal. There are many kinds of rights. Most apply to a certain group. But human rights are the only ones that apply to absolutely everyone, everywhere. That means kids, old people, poor people, basketball players, garbage men, rappers, teachers, Africans, Indians, Albanians, Christians, Muslims, Kabbalists, atheists, your mom, your dad, your next door neighbor, and you all have the exact same human rights. In other words, they're universal. But the question remains, what are they?
Name the human rights? What the human rights are?
The right to live, equality between all people.
Right to religion, the right to...
Is there supposed to be a list somewhere I should be aware of?
According to the United Nations, there are a total of 30 human rights, which are usually lumped together and called simply human rights. They're all listed out in the Universal Declaration of Human Rights, which is the world's most widely accepted document on the subject. But it was a long time in coming. At first, there were no human rights. If you were in with the right crowd, you were safe. If you weren't, you weren't. But then a guy named Cyrus the Great decided to change all that. After conquering Babylon, he did something completely revolutionary. He announced that all slaves were free to go. He also said people had the freedom to choose their religion, no matter what crowd they were a part of. They documented his words on a clay tablet known as the Cyrus Cylinder. And just like that, human rights were born. The idea spread quickly to Greece, to India, and eventually to Rome. They noticed that people naturally followed certain laws, even if they weren't told to. They called this natural law, but it kept getting trampled on by those in power. Not until 1,000 years later in England did they finally get a king to agree that no one can overrule the rights of the people, not even a king. People's rights were finally recognized, and they were now safe from those in power. Kind of. It still took a bunch of British rebels declaring their independence before the king got the point that all men are created equal. Which isn't to say he liked the idea, but he couldn't stop them. America was born. The French immediately followed with their own revolution for their own rights. Their list was even longer, and they insisted that these rights weren't just made up. They were natural. The Roman concept of natural law had become natural rights. Unfortunately, not everyone was so thrilled. In France, a general named Napoleon decided to overthrow the new French democracy and crown himself emperor of the world. He almost succeeded, but the countries of Europe joined forces and defeated him. Human rights was again a hot topic. They drew up international agreements, broadly granting many rights across Europe. But only across Europe. The rest of the world somehow still didn't qualify. Instead, they got invaded, conquered, and consumed by Europe's massive empires. But then a young lawyer from India decided enough was enough. His name was Mahatma Gandhi, and in the face of violence, he insisted that all people of Earth had rights, not just in Europe. Eventually, even Europeans started to agree. But it wasn't going to be that easy. 2 world wars erupted. Hitler exterminated half the Jewish population of Earth in horrifying Nazi death camps. And all told, 90 million people died. Never had human rights been so terrifyingly close to extinction. And never had the world been more desperate for change. So the countries of Earth banded together and formed the United Nations. Their basic purpose was to reaffirm faith in fundamental human rights, in the dignity and worth of the human person. But what were human rights? Within the proclamations of Cyrus, the natural laws of Rome, the declarations of France, everyone seemed to have a slightly different idea of what human rights should be. But under the supervision of Eleanor Roosevelt, they finally agreed on a set of rights that applied to absolutely everyone. The Universal Declaration of Human Rights. The French concept of natural rights had finally become human rights. So, in summary, at first, only a few lucky people had any rights, until one of those guys decided, hey, other people should have some rights too, which was great, except not everyone agreed. And it only took a few thousand years of fighting and declarations and more fighting until everyone finally agreed that human rights should apply to everyone. And they all lived happily ever after. Except for one little problem. If people have the right to food and shelter, why are 16,000 children dying of starvation every day? 1 every 5 seconds. If people have freedom of speech, why are thousands in prison for speaking their minds? If people have the right to education, why are over 1 billion adults unable to read? If slavery has truly been abolished, why are 27 million people still enslaved today? More than twice as many as in 1800. The fact is, when it was signed, the Universal Declaration of Human Rights did not have the force of law. It was optional. And despite many more documents, conventions, treaties, and laws, it's still little more than words on a page. So the question is, who will make those words a reality?
I have a dream today.
When Dr. King marched for racial equality, he was marching for rights that had been guaranteed by the United Nations for almost 2 decades. But still, he marched. When Nelson Mandela stood up for social justice in the 1990s, his country had already agreed to abolish such discrimination for almost 40 years. But still, he fought. Those who fight today against torture, poverty, and discrimination are not giants or superheroes. They're people. Kids, mothers, fathers, teachers, and free-thinking individuals who refuse to be silent, who realize that human rights are not history lessons. They're not words on a page. They're not speeches or commercials or PR campaigns. They are the choices we make every day as human beings. They are the responsibility we all share to respect each other, to help each other, and to protect those in need. As Eleanor Roosevelt said, where, after all, do universal human rights begin? In small places close to home. So close and so small, they cannot be seen on any maps of the world. Yet they are the world of the individual person, the neighborhood he lives in, the school or college he attends, the factory, farm, or office where he works. Such are the places where every man, woman, and child seeks equal justice, equal opportunity, equal dignity, without discrimination. Unless these rights have meaning there, they have little meaning anywhere.
All right, can someone get the lights? So what do you guys think? Oh, I'm sorry, it's that one that's next to the red switch? Thank you. So what are your thoughts on that? I know you have some thoughts, Mark.
It's pretty simple. I mean, when you say, oh, then America was founded and all the guys were like, all men are created equal. Yeah, because a bunch of slave owning guys wrote that. So
Yeah.
not exactly. And then whenever saying with the European
We
thing,
said
it's
all
like,
men are created equal, but they're not really men,
we
right?
we only meant Christendom when we said all people have rights, so we're going to go and do the stuff that we want to do economically. So we only mean human rights as far as the people who live up as everybody else's.
Yeah, that's a good point. What else? What other thoughts? Is that some people usually always have a comment about just the historical stuff and like that wasn't accurate. Yeah.
Big disconnect from like talking about it and doing it.
Yeah.
So you can see even like when Nelson Mandela said it, it's 40 years after.
Yeah.
You're not doing great about doing what you said you were going to do, and 40 years later people are still fighting.
And people don't even know if he's alive or dead, the Mandela effect, right? Do y'all know what that means? That is, he really is dead. Unfortunately. I know, we're like, what, he is? You know, the butterfly effect. But yeah, you're totally right. There's one thing to say it and say, like, you know, kind of like what you were saying, the founding fathers lock them together and like, yay, everybody's equal. But then to really follow through with that, and one thing that I think really, you know, speaks to me is, you know, there's twice as many slaves now than there were in the 1800s. What the heck? Where are these people? Why? I'm enraged. Let's go, you know, free them and knock down some doors. What's going on? And they're slaves in different ways. Men, women, children, in all types of different ways. What else did you guys come up with? What other thoughts do you have about that video?
I just had a question.
Yeah.
So what do they mean by slaves? Next time we're going to talk about human trafficking.
What do they mean by slaves? So that could be, unfortunately, children that are, taught to carry a machine gun and they're like 8 years old. Could be, children that have to work in agriculture fields and they're not allowed to go to school. sex trafficking, all kinds of different slaves that we are really hidden to in our society, and even here in America, and that we are. It's not so visible to us every day, and that's really unfortunate. What other thoughts do you guys have?
I liked that they included equal opportunity because I think that's going to affect your ability to access resources, and maybe, it said every human being has a right to food and shelter. Well, I think equal opportunity is going to affect that, like your access to food or like quality shelter. And so I think we were talking earlier, and I think it came up like, well, is that important? Is that part of human rights, like equal opportunity? Do you necessarily need that? And so I just appreciate that.
Yeah, absolutely. And something like that you mentioned earlier, you said it's like the responsibility of others and not necessarily myself. Because that happens a lot of times with victims or these folks that are slaves. They don't see themselves that way. They don't identify themselves that way. They may be in another country and they escape, and someone, they come to America and they see, well, I didn't know that I could actually go to school or that I could have any kind of opportunity for freedom or anything else. So, and even, working with, victims in human trafficking, they don't even know that they're victims of human trafficking. It's like we, as, a society, want to tell them, look, you're a victim, and it's hard because you can't really tell them that. Yes, sir.
Is the government a violation of human rights?
Is the government a violation of human rights?
No, is a government in general.
Oh, is a government.
Yes, because think about it. If you pay taxes, you are paying to live on the government's land. Now, what happens when you don't pay taxes? They imprison you. So technically, them existing is a violation of human rights. But there's certain things that we have to live with, right?
So, like if you say, well, let's say I'm in prison for whatever reason. If you would say, well, that person has the right to freedom and the right to certain things, but even as a prisoner, I have basic human rights, even in prison. I have the right to not be tortured. I have the right to food, the right to protection, to not be sexually assaulted, to so many things, right? But I did something, I violated someone else's human right, or maybe it was murder or whatever that caused me to be in prison. So sometimes there has to be this governing line. What if you didn't?
If you're just in prison for something that's not a problem, like it didn't hurt
like in other countries where you're in prison for voicing speech and that kind of thing. So there's a lot of governments, and that's of course why America sometimes tries to fly in and save the day, and
watches there here.
And here too. Absolutely.
Someone who inherited land, who didn't do their tax record, will be in prison. They didn't know that it was happening. They didn't know they had to pay the taxes, but it came up the bill, got noticed by a pencil pusher, and then all of a sudden they're owning a lot of money.
This is sounding very specific.
It's a hypothetical scenario.
Grandpa Joe.
No, I've never been.
But yeah, you're absolutely right.
It's one of those things where it's important to reflect on yourself before you go pointing fingers.
Absolutely.
There's certain situations where if you want to have these securities, it's naturally a violation of your rights. Absolutely. But at what point are certain rights overshadowed? So is there a hierarchy of which rights are more important than others?
Technically, the UN would say no. Let me pass this out. So this is the actual what they were talking about, the UN's Declaration of Rights. And so technically, they're saying not one more is more important than the other. I always thought these sessions should have food. And also audience, right?
Don't forget.
We need snacks. We have the right to food.
Number
We
16.
have the right to eat. The right to not miss dinner time. Okay, so take a look at that list. Tell me what you think.
Well, the freedom from state or personal interference in the above rights probably needs to be a thought. So I think that's good.
Yeah, and by looking at that list, you see, like, is there some that could maybe, like, be on the back burner a little bit? Maybe we don't need that as important as some others? Maybe.
Right to rest in leisure. We don't miss it.
I think that is.
That should be number 1. I definitely think that should be number 1.
Right to desirable work and to join trade unions. Stuff like that.
Okay. So look on that, tell me what you think, and now I'm going to pass this one out. And yeah, absolutely. Right to fair trial. Wouldn't it be nice? Okay, everyone take one and then designate one person or one sheet, kind of like a bingo. Designate one sheet to someone to fill out all the squares. Okay, so take one sheet and have one person designate to fill out the squares. So you would fill out as many squares as you want to, kind of like a
So we're supposed to write an article, right? One of these, at least one of these articles should go for each one of the squares. So like what?
Okay, so I'll give you like 5 minutes or so.
Or wait, right? Sometimes.
And it doesn't have to necessarily correlate with that sheet. Just come up like, say, hey, this is a book I read, and maybe that can go on there. Or a movie that I watched, and that can go on there, that type of thing. It doesn't have to necessarily correlate with that sheet.
Group in your country that wants to deny rights to others.
What was that? Love Diamonds?
Right, sometimes the night before freedom of speech.
Which
Oh, one person's gonna be the designated person to fill out those squares, so everyone talks amongst yourselves, and then fill out squares, and then get as many filled out as you can in 5 minutes. Like, so if there's like a book about rights that maybe you've read, so, you know, that's something. Or write a course that you feel is respected, whatever right is in civil or political human right. You guys are like, right now?
Yes.
Whatever. I know, give me a preview. There you go.
There's any possible positives.
For the unions and crime Article 21.
That's good.
Oh my gosh, I was gonna say that.
Declaration.
No, that's great.
I was gonna be like happiness.
I'm saying, like, that's great. It's not even.
I have
That's recognition as a human being.
Okay, so it's like,
I have a whole one next to it, and every night I'm like,
then I'll
look
get in
at
bed.
you.
It's like, I'll look at Twitter.
I'm like, it's that.
Oh, really? Consider yourself an feminist now.
Oh yeah.
Not exactly.
I heard that he is, yeah, him and him to his wife and like, no.
Organization which fights for what did you say?
John Locke.
All of them. Right.
Was it like six
Yeah, that's good too. Anything in that category.
More pressure.
So on the top row, a civil or political? Let's get which is
Bless you.
document that proclaims human rights.
I already told you this one.
Yeah.
I don't know. This is my only contribution to this.
We're not finished. Book of Adam Rights. Right, sometimes it's not.
Oh, my title's down. Don't worry. I was there.
How about rest in second shift?
I'm
Supposed to right, it's yours. We gotta,
yeah.
right?
What?
For what? For what? Are you not in jail for?
We.
There's something
Was that
that share.
I feel like that's
Human right achieved around the world.
now is it?
I feel like we're kind of stagnant in the share.
Universal.
There's sleep deprivation.
The process of, is that
We know what happens, especially for prisons.
maybe like.
Yeah.
So you think there's not one that really be achieved?
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay, so you guys, where are you guys at? Who got all the squares filled? Anybody? Total blackout, got all of them filled. Nobody. Okay, how many squares did you guys get back here? And did you guys get?
The 27.
People denied right to establish their own national rights.
And how many did you guys get? You got 13? Can anyone beat 13?
Okay.
You got 14? Okay, they got 14. Who's going to beat 14? You have 14 too? So we have 15.
Yeah.
Okay, 15, 15. Or 16. You guys, can you all do 16?
We got 16.
19? You came up with a book about that?
We got 19. Why are you?
Inventing Human Rights, a History by
Well, there we go.
Good old Bible, I don't know.
That's what I was gonna
I don't know.
Christian Bible.
No, actually, no, that's actually not.
If you say Bible, you haven't read the Old Testament.
An eye for an eye.
Okay, so it looks like they got all of them except maybe one or two. Okay, so what did you guys get for? Okay, you brought up a good question. You said, this one seems a little fishy. What about the one that says human right being achieved around the world? What is the one human right that's being achieved around the world? Did anyone come up with anything?
Well,
That we're working on.
yeah. Does that mean
Progressive.
a human right that has 100% adherence by everyone?
Yes.
Well,
Yeah.
It's a trick.
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
We got it. We got it.
I wrote
I
this
got
down.
it. I
I
got
got
it.
it.
He's like, I feel like this is not right here. It's actually tricky, yeah. There's not one, so that was a little bit tricky. Okay, what is the one, what did you guys put for type of human rights violation that most disturbs you?
sex trafficking.
Sex trafficking, human trafficking, personal security, yeah. What'd you guys get? Children, anything to do with children, absolutely. What about rights sometimes denied to women? Right to unfair wage. No, I don't even know that's on there. But I just equal pay. Amen, sister. What else? And I'll have you know, I just read an article that went, well, I'm sure it's at UTMB too. Women PAs make 10% less than male PAs.
Yeah, I read that too.
Yeah, I'm sure it's there too. What else did you guys?
Shake her head and stare at me, and I'm like, come on.
What about country where human rights situation has improved recently?
Iraq. Or did we go to Saudi Arabia? Women got the right to drive.
Cuba. They got the right to drive in Saudi Arabia. Cuba.
Boom.
I wrote,
What did you write? You didn't write anything.
I wrote down, well, we wrote down Cuba.
Okay.
Under that murder rate gone down.
And what?
Under that murder rate gone down.
The murder rate's gone down?
It's still bad, but it's still bad.
Where, in Cuba or in America?
And not good.
In Honduras.
Yeah.
I'll take it. All right. Okay, so let's move on. Oh, wait, you guys won. I said that you were going to win something, right?
Yes. Is it candy?
I didn't have anything for the other group last week, but I have for you a plate of desserts.
Oh my god.
I know. A plate of desserts for you. Enjoy. I know. Okay. I had nothing but to give, but like just, bragging rights and prestige to the last group. I was like, I'm sorry, I got nothing. I ran out of Halloween candy. Okay. So have you guys been talking about Fernando? Is this like a guy you know? Okay. So we're still on Fernando. And here's an update on Fernando. The famine has passed and Fernando's growing up. He has started going to school. His uncle, Juan Verdad, is helping to support his family, including paying for his school fees. His mother and father are grateful to Juan for his financial help. Juan is the editor of Children's Texaco's largest newspaper, The Important Times. He is interested in the impact of domestic and foreign investment on the well-being of children Texicans. Okay. But all of a sudden, Juan disappears. That the wealthy foreign and children Texican investors are running a drug cartel through the province of Texaco, which is Fernando's home. Texicans are being threatened to get off the land and in some cases tortured or murdered. Juan publishes a story in his newspaper of the atrocities. He hinted that the investors and government might be responsible. The day after publication, Juan and 2 of his assistant editors disappear. The government has denied knowledge of his whereabouts. Juan's family and friends decide to go look for him. Okay, so now what you guys are going to do you need to decide a person that you would like to be on this sheet.
The president. Whichever.
Because if it's Trump, you might be assassinated.
No.
That's terrible.
It's a government from the Secret Service.
You're going to call it Secret Service.
Last month, we talked about.
Okay, you're going to commit to a character.
And I was like, he's gonna get killed by the government. And then sure enough.
You're guys going to commit to a character.
Dead.
Be one with your character. Get into your character best as you can. Decide who you want to be.
One is Juan's brother.
Okay. Everyone feeling one with your character? You're in character mode? Yeah, you can all be different people. You can be, you can have more than one person. So decide. It's just whatever you want to identify with. You can be male, female, whoever you want to be. Okay, and now we're going to go through a few scenarios, and you're going to, based on who you've decided, I'm going to show you the consequences of whatever character you chose. Okay, and one of the choices is to do nothing, but you can't choose to do nothing twice in a row. So you can't just sit back and go, I'm not going to do anything, I'm just going to be safe. Okay, you can't do that. Okay, so here we go.
Okay.
Y'all are one with your character, so now here we go. Verdad's family, y'all ready? They're not ready, they're still debating. You can be whoever you want to be. Okay, Verdad's family and friends decide to go look for him. First, they go to his office at the Important Times. Okay, group, over here, eating desserts. Listen up. I know, getting rowdy. Okay. They really are rowdy. There they learn from Verdad's co-workers that he kept a special file containing revealing documents about the children Texican massacres. Upon opening the files, you discover the papers are gone. Dun, dun, dun. Okay, what should you do next? A, write a letter to the children Texican government pleading for information about Juan. B, write a news story letter to the editor or give an interview to a news agency accusing the government of causing the disappearance. Or C, do nothing and keep quiet. So what would your character do? Okay, so based on who, not you as a person, like as a medical student, PA student, OTPT, but you as your character, what would that person probably do? How many of you would do A? Who would do A? Okay.
Everybody?
Your character.
Are all characters choosing right now?
Yes, so your character has to choose to do something, and it has to be in character mode, not in you as a person mode. Okay, so what would your character do? Who would choose A? One person committing to A. Okay, reconnect.
Your motivation is you want to find one.
I'm thinking if you're a priest or a nun, you might do nothing, so I'm just putting that out there. Okay, so whoever would do A. Let's see it. Okay, who would do B? Lots of B's. All right, who would do C? Quite a few C's. All right, let's see. What are these consequences? A, I'm sorry, you disappear. If you're A, you're disappeared. That you have to walk over there and be in the disappeared zone. A, you're gone.
You go.
Disappeared. We don't know what happened to you. Okay? B, I'm sorry, you're in jail. B, come to jail. Okay? You're being tortured and interrogated. I'm sorry.
You're human rights.
I think there was a lot more B's and now you're scared to go to jail. Tortured and interrogated. All right. C, there's a crackdown and there's police in the neighborhood, so you're fine. You're doing nothing. Okay, now we're still in character mode. Okay, still in your same character. Verdad's family and friends decide to visit the Director of Public Information. They ask him if he knows anything about Verdad, but he only repeats the government's official position that they have no knowledge of his disappearance. Okay, moving forward, what happens? A, would you lead a demonstration in front of the Director of Public Information's office? B, ask your local mayor for help? Or C, go home and do nothing?
And you can't do nothing twice.
And you can't do nothing twice. You gotta choose something if you did nothing the first time.
So wait, can we do it from jail?
Does jail have some?
I mean, we
You're
have
still
to
in
pick
jail.
because we're in jail.
You have to do nothing because you can't do anything. You're being tortured right now.
Can we at least get to go home?
No, you got to be tortured and interrogated. If you did nothing, you either lead a demonstration or you're going to ask the mayor for help.
The mayor and I are friends.
So if you did nothing the first time, you got to choose something. Who's choosing A? Okay, got a couple A's. Who's choosing B? Okay, and so you got to choose something, A or B. Because y'all chose nothing last time. Okay, let's see what happens. If you chose A, you disappear. You got to go disappear. Bye-bye.
The international journalists can't disappear because they're just like wherever.
Aren't you being tortured right now?
Arbitrarily.
And being interrogated?
I'm
Okay,
on
A,
break.
disappear.
I'm on smoke
B, you're picked up by police, beaten, and interrogated. Come to jail, B's.
Yeah.
And half of you can go and be released. So we're having new jail people. Half of you can leave. No, you got to go to jail. And he's getting a dessert as he goes. Okay. I know. Don't say I didn't ever give you anything. Okay. Let's see where we're at. Everyone who remains gets together at an underground meeting. At the meeting, they voice their fears about Verdad's well-being. They resolve to find him. The government's assault against the children Texican people has stepped up. The meeting group contacts Amnesty International to put pressure on the government to release Verdad. Okay, so what should you do next? A, write a story, letter to the editor, provide information to a news agency denouncing the government. B, organize a boycott of multinational corporations thought to be involved in the drug trade. Or C, go home and do nothing. What you got? You're still in jail. You're still disappeared.
Can we write
What's
letters
left?
from jail?
We
have access.
That's a good thought. So what are you guys? A? Okay. B? C? Would you really do nothing? Are you a nun?
Are you a nun?
Are you a nun or a priest? No, that's a choice. I think you would do nothing.
I'm a nun, but I'd write a letter.
Okay. I guess you could write a letter if you're a nun. Okay. A, you're picked up by police and go to jail. B, you disappear.
Dog's been murdered.
C, I'm sorry, you find your dog has been murdered with a note that says you'll be next.
Oh my gosh.
I know, that's pretty violent.
We can go hunt down that person.
Okay, Amnesty International letters pour into the office of the children's Texican president. Verdad's friends and family are encouraged by the international pressure, but the government still denies any knowledge or responsibility of his disappearance. And Juan Verdad is released. Okay, y'all can all go back. I know, y'all can all go back. Y'all can all go back and sit down. Thank you. You're released. You're free. Free to enjoy your dessert. Y'all were good characters. Y'all really were in character. I know, the dog. You're more upset about the dog than you are about Juan being tortured. So now, I'm going to give you like 2 minutes. Talk amongst yourselves about the group. What human rights were violated during all that scenario? Okay, talk amongst yourselves.
Yeah, that's absolutely the best option. If you can see it happening, it's like, just keep walking. It's fine.
So, are you
It's fine. Okay. 18 because the boycott.
Yeah.
20 is assembly. Technically not social security since everyone disappeared. So 22. We could play criminal sets.
You need to let me out.
For like 27. Anytime per person.
Okay. How many did y'all come up with? A lot. A lot, right?
Almost everything.
Almost all of them? All right, very good. And so really the take-home message is that this is just happening right now, today. All over the world. Take-home message is really that this type of thing is happening as we speak. Okay, and that's something that we definitely should think about. So Juan's story. So Juan is stripped of his post as editor of the Important Times. The government takes over the newspaper. He is barred from working in journalism again. Unemployed and emotionally scarred from his ordeal, Juan slips into depression and becomes a recluse. He is no longer able to support Fernando and his family, so Fernando has to drop out of school for the year. The drug cartels have started operating in Children's Texaco. Fernando's mother nearly escapes a violent crime on her way home. Gangs have been frequenting Fernando's house, attempting to recruit him and threaten him when he says no. Fernando's parents are concerned about his safety, and they spend all of their savings to pay a smuggler to take him and his sister to Arizona for a better life. So, now, you guys are going to decide. So, let's say you guys are going to be, let's make you guys Fernando. Okay, let's see, how many? We only have 4. Oh, darn. Okay, so you guys be Fernando. You spoke up. I'll let you be the drug cartel. We're going to say border guards over there. And let's say, we'll say politicians in the back. So we'll say, actually for you guys, we'll say, I guess you could reflect on border guard and resident living on the U.S. Border. Kind of a little bit of both of those. And then politicians. Everyone has a group assignment. Okay, so now talk amongst yourselves. What in your perspective of your group, what is the situation that makes you feel from that perspective of the character? What are the important human rights issues from your character's perspective? So from the drug cartel, you're thinking...
People should have the right to buy lots of drugs.
There you go.
Yeah,
That's right.
Economic freedom to make lots of money and spend it on drugs.
Politicians might be thinking something else. Fernando might be thinking something else. Border guard. And there's the politician's constituents right there. So y'all talk amongst yourselves. So how does this situation make you feel from this perspective of that group or your character?
Yeah. We're playing a smug part, so we don't even know if we have the yeah, but we're gonna take it which is the most randomly controlled stuff. Like that's as you need safe conversation.
Can we go back to the questions?
What? The questions are right there. Oh, I'm sorry. I thought they were. There you go. Sorry.
Florida States. Right, or is it, or at least the coyote has.
Wait, is he smuggled with his sister?
Yes.
I'm pretty happy with it. Are we going somewhere to a family member, or is it just Arizona? So I'm gonna drop us off in the road.
You don't know. You don't know. So there's a lot of unknown. There's a lot of fear.
No, we are not excited about that. We can keep our young. What? 12-year-olds to be like, yay! It's like, yeah, we can run into here and have nowhere to go. Is sister older or younger?
I don't know. Let's say younger.
That's even worse.
Yeah.
This is not a thing. This is not. I hate this one.
Other people, like,
People who are, but then it's Arizona. Worried about it.
I will expect it until they're trying to drive themselves.
Especially now of ours. Scared, afraid, and now you're going to have to come to terms with the fact that you have to raise your
So you're thinking that he's being supported? I mean, I'm sorry.
Yeah, reproduction.
Creative Fernandez, I go with them.
I think the younger
So let's take control of Fernandez.
We'll start our own newspaper, and we'll hire Paul, and he'll write.
Yeah.
What about, we can have
He has government officials on his side.
Yeah, so there's like, right?
Yeah, the Netflix, right? 5 years, 7 months.
Oh my goodness. So Jason,
Yes, it's so good. Oh, it's so
the
good.
girls can do anything.
Pretty serial killer.
Typical.
Probably a child.
I don't like, I don't hear about everything.
Okay, let's get back on topic.
When you're under 8, no, it's no. Let's talk about what are the human rights issues. Yeah, like, this is not gonna go like this.
It's like LGBT.
If you were, I would say bigger than. And on top of that, how is he getting done? How is he getting done? So you're saying that he needs to register. Or will you didn't know how to get it? Will you know how to manage
It's in the lectures. Yeah.
Robert Daniels gonna be like, yeah, lost points all there.
There's a lecture reading that.
And they see people die. Grandmother disappears. All these Indians are my life. I'm excited. And this will be when he's stressed.
What's Fernando thinking?
Compared to which one are you doing?
I put up her sister, like, she's gonna have my so he might.
No, she's gonna put the worst like. Imagine, okay, so not necessarily, but now, look, if you have 3 people.
All right, drug cartel.
Knock that down.
You got this?
Now,
Might be a little dark.
12, Fernando 12 had somewhat. Subtraction is the thing that.
Yeah, you got this.
So you can understand 3 is less than 1.
You're in character. You're in character.
I couldn't really get it
You lost it.
I
Okay, guys, let's come together. All right, so let's hear from Fernando first. What is Fernando feeling? What's he feeling? He's feeling hopeful?
Excited.
In the back.
But he's, what about his mom and dad? He has a life without them.
He's sad that he's lost his parents. He's afraid of going to this place. And he can be very anxious and apprehensive of how he's going to take care of this.
Yeah.
How is there's no plan here
Yeah.
that he's aware of.
Yeah.
So,
Bad stuff. Yeah. Well, so if he's scared, he's unknown, there's no good plan, does that leave the drug cartel open to recruit him, get, and...
Not from Arizona, come on. Arizona.
So what do you guys think? He's a drug mule. Okay. And what are you promising him? Anything?
Like,
We won't kill you?
yes.
And your sister? What else? He didn't get any money out of this? Any protection?
He gets,
Any protection or safety?
well, since he's the drug mule, he gets guaranteed, he gets to go across successfully and not get caught. We
But he
there's
gets
a
to be part
there's
of
a
our
tunnel,
family.
there's a tunnel under the wall, you see.
And we
Have a
protect his
smug
parents.
Oh yeah, because there's a wall, right?
Yeah, there was a wall, but we protected.
And we
It's
protect
a
his
tunnel.
we protect his parents.
Oh, and you'll kill his
Oh,
parents
right.
that are back, and she'll detect
We're also getting a newspaper, and then we're gonna hire Juan, and he's gonna write like pro cartel articles for us.
And he also has connections with the local government, so we can control that.
Yeah, support.
This is very complex.
You don't know how
Very
it
good.
works.
I like it. I like it.
We're not gonna mess with mom though.
Okay, but if they did a
Juan's really
tunnel,
close with, well, Fernando's really close with mom, so we're probably stuck with mom.
okay. What about they dug a tunnel under the wall. So what does Border Patrol think of this? Yeah, this is not good,
We
right?
have connections with border.
Everyone's paid off by the drug cartel, even the politicians over there.
Yeah.
They're on the tape.
We have photos of the politicians' daughters using our product, and the politicians
They've got all
with
your
prostitutes. So it's not even an issue.
Fernando,
Their minds have really in character.
We got those Roy Moore stories on file, so don't even worry about it.
yeah, it's because Fernando, Juan knew border control because he interviewed them for previous newspaper
Okay.
articles, so we paid them off.
So y'all are paid off?
I'm a resident.
You're a resident. Okay, so you're just enraged about the whole thing, and you're scared.
Already in Arizona.
Okay.
I don't want them.
Do you take drugs?
Drug
He wants to go.
You want some trust. Okay, politicians. Are you guys on the take? What's going on? What are you going to do about this? What are you going to do about Fernando? What are you going to do about the drug cartel? All of it.
We don't.
No. They're so scared right
They
now.
don't want to hear this.
So what we were
You'll
saying
not be
was
running
that-
for re-election.
We said was Fernando's welcome if he can prove that he's in some kind of big turn over there and it's being prosecuted by the government, but if it's like this local thing, which it seems like it is from Texas.
So he would not necessarily will qualify for asylum, right? Okay. These are your constituents, your enraged constituents over here.
Yes.
Okay. These are very popular politicians. I'm suspicious. I think maybe there's a few over there on the take. I don't know. Okay. We debrief. Oh no, he's been deported. Oh.
I told you, Arizona. I've been saying that.
It's Arizona. So one thing to think about is, I guess the one reflection is, are human rights universal?
No.
It's part of the definition. To be universal.
Are they universal?
No, they're not.
They're not. And why is that?
Because human rights are not something that happen naturally. Like, if you plant a tree in the ground and it grows, it's like something that's going to happen. Human rights are a responsibility of other people. So if those people don't choose, everyone doesn't choose to like affirm those and to be guided by those, then it's just not going to happen.
Right.
And there's no way that it would happen.
And it was like, what was it, like the UN declaration that you guys have there on your table. I mean, that's optional. That's an opt-in. I mean, it's not even.
They can't enforce it. So
right.
The United Nations
it's
is
not an enforcing body
of governments.
Yeah.
So government in general needs to be funded to enforce things. Plus, you have corruption, and then anything that the UN does is only enforced by the people in the UN, which is oftentimes is minimal and lax. You can see basically the UN in 1940 something told the US to stop its inflationary policies, and we just blatantly disregarded that and did whatever the heck we wanted to.
I think that's pretty typical.
Basically, it was one of the contributing factors to World War II. Like, they have no power to enforce anything that they do.
Right. That is true. What other thoughts do you guys have on that? And so, do you have some thoughts? Like you said, human rights are universal. Do you have a thought like, yes, they are universal? No?
I thought they were. They're supposed to be.
They're supposed to be, right? So, is it relative to culture? I mean, so in some cultures, it is okay to murder. And they justify that, right? So, do you disagree or agree with the following statement? Different cultures have different moral codes, therefore there is no objective truth in morality. Right and wrong are only matters of opinion, and opinions vary from culture to culture, therefore there are no universal human rights. Do you agree or disagree with that? We have two that agree. Yes.
I mean, I'm sure in those cultures where it's okay to murder, it's the people who are murdering are okay with it, but those people getting murdered, I'm sure
They're not okay with it. Yeah.
Well, can you just say that about death penalty?
You can say that about the death penalty. Absolutely.
You can say that about soldiers.
Absolutely.
So it's like, like you would do that in like lots of ways in the United States. Like you said before, like we do the
War, death penalty.
We do that eye for an eye mob.
Yes.
You would
So, really, there are no universal human rights, right?
Well, but I
But it's also a matter of opinion.
I disagree with that.
Okay.
Because I do think that there is a certain right and wrong that you're born with. There are right and wrongs that you're taught. But I think that there are, we have conscientious right and wrongs that we have just innate. I think you are born, as a human, you're born with rights. It's whether or not those rights are carried out.
Yeah.
But by being alive, you have the right to live. Now, is that going to be carried out that maybe that's cultural.
And is it that when you're born that you believe that you have those rights, or that you just automatically reflect that to other people? Like a little kid's like, oh, a little bunny, that's so sweet, and I'm gonna let it live. Or I think people might be innately good when you're born. I mean, they're not gonna just, oh, a cute little bunny, and then kill it.
Yeah. I agree. Because that's what makes you like a sociopath. Like that's what separates like the rest of the world and like people that have like superheroes issues. Like
I know, you said you were
What do you
and I
think?
told you I disagree with you. So
No, the humans are born innately good.
You think that you don't agree with that?
No, that is, once you're born, it's egocentric.
So are you
We don't
born blank, and then now we're getting on
No.
a good and evil?
I believe
like,
you were born evil and made good.
Really?
Yes.
You're
because
born evil. A little
naturally-
devil was born.
Okay, so
She's a little devil.
everyone in this class has had like developmental stuff, right? You've heard of egocentrism in young children.
Right.
Now that is something that naturally happens.
Right.
No parent births their child and goes, man, I'm going to teach this kid how to only care about itself. So you naturally only care about yourself
are you saying egocentrism is
from the
evil?
time you're born. It's a characteristic of you.
that's
If you were
being able to
concerned with
survive.
only your well-being, then you would do anything to do others. In a situation where you were egocentric, you could turn out to be cannibalistic. And that's a violation of other people's rights. And you would
We are
understand
so-
that is wrong.
But wait,
Now,
in
in a
some
cultural
cultures,
environment,
it is
you are-
okay to eat other people.
Exactly. Which is another thing.
But the person that's going to get eaten
But from the moment
probably
you're
doesn't like that.
the culture around you trains you out of that egocentrism, which makes you good.
But that was that part of developmental psych that's proving is like survival mode. Like the whole point of egocentrism is like as a baby is like that's what they focus on to survive if they weren't nurtured.
Like, it's all about me, so I need to
That's
eat,
why
I need
they
to
have
sleep,
that.
I need to be protected and warm
If they
and.
didn't have nurturing, that's the whole nurturing.
How is that evil?
That's why they have that.
Because you
You're a baby killer. No, I don't know.
So
We're getting way, way, way off. Okay. So should we just live and let live? Is basically the
no, we
last
don't do that in this class.
No.
We don't do that. Okay. All right. So mainly,
Get out of here, Ben.
so really, like I was talking about in the beginning, that we have these human rights. We have the UN Declaration of Human Rights there, the 30 wonderful points there. We could probably add to it if we wanted to. And that's kind of this aspirational, thing that we want to aspire to. Like, this would be perfect, like a perfect world if we could just all adhere to this, these 30, Declaration of Human Rights. And unfortunately, we don't. And some things have their culture and thoughts that maybe human rights are not universal. So those are just some ways, some things to think about. Definitely, there is a vulnerability that we have to consider. So when there's vulnerable groups, whether it be minority, children, elderly, whatever it might be, maybe they're uneducated, they live in a poor community, they don't have food or clean water, that type of thing. There's a lot of vulnerable groups, and to a certain extent, it is our sort of our responsibility, as humans, to make sure that we respect others in that way. So this is just sort of like a funny off-topic thing. So what if someone said you do not have the right to urinate? Actually, I think about this, and this is a sign, like at all. Like, you cannot urinate anymore. Like, that's ridiculous. But then you're going to be up in arms, and then you're going to make this a human right. I have the right to urinate. So really, things are not upheld until really they're violated, right? So until there's, like in the beginning of time, whatever in the video, 3000 BC, there were no human rights. So until things start getting violated is when then you start kind of saying, I have the right? So, and actually I think this picture was probably taken in New York because, if you've ever been to New York, Manhattan, people definitely urinate all over the streets. It's just a thing.
It's a thing.
It's just a thing because there's no bathrooms anywhere. So you just, I mean, you'll just be in a taxi. I don't know. This is just me. Been to New York. I mean, real story. I'm just in a taxi cab and I'm like, oh man, urinating on the street. Something you don't see every day, you know. But that's real. This is such an awesome quote. So from Nelson Mandela, for to be free is not merely to cast off one's chains, but to live in a way that respects and enhances the freedom of others. And that's really it. That's all I got for human rights. I'm going to talk briefly. I have another slide set just talking really about human trafficking in itself, and really my passion, anti-human trafficking. And they want me to make sure that you know next week at Simon, findings an article about public health pertaining to your profession. So, and I'm sure that's posted somewhere on Blackboard possibly. Now, switching gears a little bit. So, before coming here, I worked at Baylor College of Medicine up in Houston. And I was chatting with a patient during physical exam, like I like to do. And she was telling me, yeah, I'm going back to school to be a social worker because I specifically want to, target human trafficking since it's such a problem in Houston. And this is like about probably 6-ish years ago. And I'm like, huh? What are you talking about? And I had no idea. And then it just kind of stuck with me. And the more I researched it, I was like, yeah, this is crazy. This is really a problem. And then fast forward, I come here to UTMB campus and I start asking around, School of Medicine, residents, PA, nursing school, everybody. No, they kind of like, huh? What are you talking about? Human trafficking is a problem? And so apparently this was not being taught anywhere. This is nowhere. So I just sort of decided, well, I'm just going to take this on. I'm just going to develop a curriculum and make it happen. So that's kind of been my little baby the last few years. So this is a part, too, of, what people are saying when there's slavery definitely still exists. So there's different types of human trafficking, but the main one that I've particularly been passionate about is sex trafficking. I don't know why that, when you get really passionate about something or involved in something, you don't really know why something just speaks to you and it kind of like puts a place in your heart. And this is just one of those things that has put a place in my heart. But something that we saw before in the video, it says there's more slaves today than any other time in history, or doubled since the 1800s, is something just amazing, amazingly horrifying to me. So what is your answer to this question? At what age do most victims start to become trafficked? What do you think?
13.
Okay, some people are saying A over here. 8. You guys are saying 13. If you're a PA, don't answer because you probably already know this question. 17. You feel like you should know this question because I've already told you guys. So it's actually 13. It's the most common age. And I tried to find the actual reason why, and I could not find an answer anywhere. So I lie awake in bed at night and think about these things, and I thought, you know what? I think age 12 to 15 is the most commonly trafficked age, because I'm thinking, okay, kids are in daycare, and then you're out of daycare at age 12, then you're legally allowed to stay home alone at age 12, and then 16 you're driving. So you've got this limbo age time where you're walking home from school, you don't have parents, home from work yet, or maybe not at all really in the picture, overseeing or disciplining you. So I just kind of came up with this, and this is totally made up, and this is a Contreras-ism that I just kind of made up, that the reason why 12 to 15 is the most targeted age. Also, it's a time, where you're kind of coming into your own, you're want to kind of have more independence and that type of thing. So, I mean, that's a huge part of it.
Wait, can you not be home alone
Yeah, I've
before
never
12?
heard of that ever.
You're not supposed to be. Not supposed to be.
In is that?
They'll call the latchkey cops on you?
Yeah, latchkey cops. I know. I don't think you're supposed to be left alone, right? You're not supposed to
Yeah,
be.
no, I've heard that. Yeah, that's how it works.
You're not, you're not supposed to be leave a child home alone.
Oh.
That's like not a thing. Now, back in the 80s,
So is the movie?
I was walking home from school and I was always looking for a white van because apparently white vans are the vans that kidnap kids.
Oh yeah, that's a pedo.
It's a thing.
My mom called them rapist fan.
Yeah, so I would always walk home from school, and I was being a latchkey kid, so, I mean, but yeah, not. But back then, there wasn't daycare, so you have to understand, like in the 70s, there's no like daycares everywhere, 80, you know. So this daycare thing is like really just the last 20-ish years or so. But back then, yeah, you're just like walking up from school, cook up your own dinner, you know, whatever. Okay, the most disturbing thing about this, because I know this is very busy, but it's basically just to tell you that it's a $1 billion industry. They feel that, you know, human trafficking in itself is becoming, I hate to say this, popular and so prevalent now that it's going to one day possibly surpass drug trafficking and arms dealing. But the most disturbing thing about this is that 42% of the recruiters are women. So you think like just a creepy dude, you know, but really almost half of the recruiters are women. So the United Nations defines this as recruitment, transportation, transfer, harboring, receipt of persons by threat, force, coercion, abduction, fraud, all these types of things. So a lot of people think that, oh, this is like, you know, you get taken off the street or you're kidnapped or it's like the movie Taken or whatever. And it's really not so much like that in the real, in our society right now, in our community. This is in our backyard. And really, or a lot of people think like, I mean, I know that just thinking of human trafficking maybe 7-10 years ago, I think of like mail order Russian brides or, you know, in Thailand or, you know, something like that. In this other country, this is where it's happening. It's not here in America. So people think of people coming across from Mexico and smuggling people. And yes, that does happen. But that's not the majority. The majority of these victims are actually American citizens. And they're our children. They're right here in America. And they potentially could be runaways or just have a dysfunctional family, homeless. There's a lot of different scenarios that go on. Yes, ma'am.
This actually, like, they had a huge, like, sex trafficking thing. I'm from California, outside of Sacramento. And it happened in, like, the next neighborhood over from me. And they're a really nice neighborhood. And they just, like, bought out a bunch of, like, foreclosed houses in one neighborhood, and it was run by a woman.
Yep.
And it was just that she like recruited people all of like the California coast and through like the Bay Area, and there's all girls from California.
Yeah.
And from like
absolutely. They're somehow vulnerable. Yeah.
It was all like one little suburban nice neighborhood.
Yeah.
And they had like 6 or 7 houses. And people never noticed, but they just thought it was weird that like cars stopped by. And
yeah, that's weird.
Yeah. And then cars were reported, and then actually the same cars were stopping multiple houses throughout the day. And
yeah, weird men coming in and out.
But it was like it's one of like it's a really rough neighborhood.
Yeah.
Like, people picture it to be like it's like downtown neighborhoods like prostitution or that.
Right.
It wasn't. So like it was like a huge deal. So now
absolutely.
Now they have like all these like women shelters and stuff that just sprung up because of that. So like blessing these guys, but it was weird.
Yeah.
Like,
yeah.
It was weird.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, it's everywhere, and also that's where you'll see. You know, it could be right in your neighborhood. It could be hotel motel based. It could be residential brothels. So what you're describing is residential brothels, commercial front brothels. That's that weird, sneaky little spa that, you know, you're not supposed to go to, or massage parlor. It's like, you know, why is that? Why do we drive by that and go, oh, that's weird, blinkety blink light that's open at midnight that says come like get a foot massage or something weird, you know? And it's like we know we don't go in there and it's weird, but that's all, and we just keep driving. But you know that something's going on in there, something shady, right? So that's something that we need to be disturbed by that and talk to people and educate more people about what's going on. Certainly, a lot of these are human trafficking that doesn't have to do with sex trafficking, like restaurants, food service, agriculture, domestic work and labor and that type of thing can certainly happen. So what city do you think has the highest number of trafficking victims in the nation? So you mentioned California. What city do you think that is? D.C.?
Yeah.
All right, got D.C.
Miami.
Houston, Miami. What you guys got? You're thinking Miami? Maybe New York? It's actually Houston. Right here.
Fantastic.
So we're happy about a lot of things. We're happy about the Astros. Not so happy about human trafficking. So the reason why it's Houston is because that's where they get the most, well, they think, this is something that's very difficult to track, but the highest number or highest volume of phone calls that the anti-human trafficking organizations get is from Harris County, across the nation, nationwide. Harris County gets the most calls of people, finding victims and that type of thing. Also, 2 international airports. We have the Port of Houston, also, the shore, Galveston, and the harbor. We have I-10, Interstate 10. So easily, truckers can jump on I-10 in about 5 hours, you're out of state. And a lot of times they take them up to like Nashville's another hot spot. So you can be across state lines very quickly. Mexico border is another reason. And actually, I researched there's 93 different languages and dialects spoken in the Houston surrounding area, so you can easily blend in. Also, what a lot of traffickers do is they want to get you out of your comfort zone, and that's what they want to do. So quickly, plane, boat, I-10, Mexico, wherever, however they can get you out quickly, out of your comfort zone, out of where you're going to go back to find your support system. So they're going to get you to a place that you do not know. And incidentally, we do the same thing when someone is rescued. Wherever they were originally being trafficked, we take them out of that area far, far away. There's a couple of different retreats and ranches. One's close to College Station. They take them far away in a remote area and this kind of retreat ranch type style living where they can live for a year or however long they need to be rehabilitated and taught skills and that type of thing to reintroduce them back into society. And a lot of times it takes a lot of time, not just a couple of years, but several years. This is just showing you some hot spots. And you can see a lot of it's like around the coast is a lot of the hot spots and big cities where you can blend in. So risk factors, certainly there's a lot of them. So as you can see, there's, the individual, certainly if you are undergoing abuse in the home and that type of thing, you're going to try to find a better life and maybe run away. LGBT status is another big one, gang membership and being recruited, poverty, unemployment, any type of family dysfunction, certainly in high crime areas, just peer pressure in general, societal things, lack of awareness, and not really being able to identify as a victim. So one thing that's interesting is peer pressure. My daughter came home from school one day, I guess this was last year, and she said, so I have twin girls that are 15. And it's interesting because I have this passion as a healthcare provider to be able to identify victims and be able to help them that way, but also as a parent, I'm just enraged. I'm going to have this whole other thing as a parent. And then spiritually, a human rights issue. There's a whole other thing going on there. So I'm always, pulled in these different directions. But my daughter came up from school one day, and she goes to Clear Springs High School, which is a pretty good, high school, Clear Creek Independent School District. And she says, Mom, they broke up a prostitution ring at school last year. And I was like, awesome, And I actually educated her and said, I just want you to know that was not prostitution. That's not something that they were really wanting to do on their own. Plus, everyone in high school is a child, basically under the age of 18, mostly, right? So they're not going to have the ability to consent. So that was pretty much a human trafficking ring that was going on. And another big area for human trafficking, Katy. Anyone from Katy? Okay, Texas. Big area for trafficking. Sugar Land. big area for trafficking. Cyprus, really hot spot right now. And so this is our communities. This is like right here. I live in League City. I grew up in the Clear Lake area, and so I've always been in this area. Right in Friendswood. I was, driving in church. Well, this was a couple of years ago when my kids were in, what do you call it? I guess is it Life Team? Is that what it's called?
Yeah.
Young Life. Thank you. Young Life. So had to go at night. I had to pick them up at like 8:30 at night or something from church. And so we went and got something to eat. We're on our way home. It's like by now it's like 9:30. Little spa open and a couple of nice Mercedes, BMW, a couple of nice cars. I'm like, why is that place open at 9:30 at night? That's weird. And everything was blacked out. And it was right there. And I talked to a person that I know, a friend of mine, and said, yes, that's definitely a commercial front brothel. And it's right across from the Friendswood courthouse, right there. And so you can imagine a lot of these girls, too, they're afraid to speak to law enforcement. They're afraid to speak to judges and lawyers and these types of folks because sometimes those are the Johns. Those are the people paying sometimes. And it's kind of disturbing to even think about. I also, well, one thing that's also disturbing, too, and I'll just let you know, that, it's easy to sell drugs this one time, sell, a gun this one time, but you can sell the human body over and over and over. That's kind of a disturbing thought. And most of the girls, at minimum, are sold about 30 times a day. If you want anything, you're thought of as property. So if you just want, this is, kind of a disturbing thought, but like say they're on their menstrual cycle, they don't want them to be on their menstrual cycle, but you want a tampon, yeah, you're gonna go bring me 3 Johns, and then maybe I'll give you something. You want a toothbrush? You want a bar of soap? You want to take a shower? Yeah, you have to earn it, and that type of thing. So any little thing, they really teach them to, a brainwashing to rely on them. Most of the girls that are really young are going to be in your kind of hidden away in the brothel type, like commercial front brothels or residential brothels or hotel motel based. Those are the young ones. Those are the pretty ones. Then as they get a little bit older, they'll end up being more street based. And usually pretty much the life expectancy for these girls is about 7 to 8 years. That's in 2 forms of thought. One is that they're done with them by the time they're like age 21, something like that, to where they're like on the street, addicted to drugs, and then you'll see them for real, like prostitutes out there trying to, that's all they know to do to get more drugs to live and that type of thing. But usually they were originally trafficked, when they were younger. A lot of times those women will grow up and become recruiters, become traffickers, because that's the only life that they knew. Also, another way of thinking about life expectancy is that they are exposed to so many different diseases and different things like that they potentially could die from sepsis, from abuse, from a lot of different things. So that's another. So there's kind of two forms of thought as far as that life expectancy. Another thing, like Houston being number 1. It's thought when the Super Bowl originally came up this last time, but the time before, that was really the year, what was that, like 2004-ish or something maybe? That was the time where people came and were like, whoa, this is a good city to kind of like, traffickers kind of like, let's set up camp in Houston type of thing. And the reason why Super Bowl or any kind of big event like that, especially the biggest sporting event, is one of the big draws for human trafficking is because it's thought of women as entertainment, and that this is, something else to add to an entertainment type thing. Teachers and flight attendants are now getting more education on how to recognize human trafficking, and then certainly we've already talked about like these weird little massage parlors. These are actually some real pictures of places around Houston that are have been known. They're shut down now, but have been known to be traffickers. And then there was something called Backpage, but it shut down. Actually, strategically, it was shut down just about 2 weeks before this last Super Bowl, which I thought was pretty interesting. And the class, our PA class that's now in their clinical year, they became really passionate about the human trafficking thing. They formed a student organization here on campus. It's university-wide called SWAT, Students Working Against Trafficking, that you are more than welcome to join, and I will give you information at the end, or certainly Dr. Patel has my information, I think, posted on Blackboard. But when the Super Bowl came around, they raised, I think, over 200 lipsticks. And so that's kind of weird because like, why are they raising lipsticks? This is weird. But the reason is because if you could just go out and start giving out business cards, they're going to get in trouble. So if they find that on their person, they're going to get beat, and they're going to get in a lot of trouble. But if they find a lipstick on them, it's like, oh, well, that's to make you pretty, and, this is helping you, and so aesthetically, so yeah, you can totally keep that lipstick. So what they do is the PA class raised all these lipsticks. They gave it to an organization called Elijah Rising, and what they do is they take a little sticker, like that SKU barcode that has all the tiny little numbers on it. Well, it looks like that, but the tiny little numbers is actually a 1-800 number. And so they stick that on the lipstick and then pass it out to all the girls. So they passed out, I think, 250 lipsticks around the Super Bowl that time. And there was about 350 arrests during the time of the Super Bowl, specifically arrests for human trafficking. So it's something that, and these are pictures of real life conditions. That's actually a cantina. That's like a massage parlor type commercial front brothel. That is, I'm not actually sure where that kind of place is, but I think it's like a garage, probably residential. So those are some of the similar conditions that they have to live in. But one article that I read, this woman, she was so enraged that these folks were moving into her neighborhood, like Katy or Spring or any of these other places. She was so enraged about it. One of these another commercial front brothel, just moving in, and she was telling her pastor, about this and how enraged she was. And the pastor said, "Well, what would you normally do when someone moves into your neighborhood?" And she said, "Well, I bake them muffins." And he said, "Well, go do that. Bake them muffins." She's like, "Okay." So she baked a muffin. She goes over there and goes in, gives them the muffins, and boy, they loved them. And then she becomes a key instrumental person in law enforcement. Says, "Okay, there was 3 of them. This is what they look like. There's this many girls." And she's getting in, just sweet little granny with some muffins. Okay. And then she can go into all these different places, and they just let her in, eat the muffins, and then she's able to actually be an informant to law enforcement. So I thought that was pretty cool. So definitely there's a lot of health consequences, and these human traffickers are really becoming smart and savvy, and so we have to continue to be more, kind of be more quick-witted in how we're going to combat this. They know that healthcare providers are smart people, and that they don't want their girls to ever get to the ER or ever get to your clinic. So they're going to do everything they can, so by the time they get to you, they are going to be pretty sick. Maybe urosepsis, maybe liver failure. There could be a lot of different things going on. Maybe missing teeth, and just a lot of different, major things going on. Now the drug dealer, I keep saying drug dealers because I'm about to tell you about drugs. Now the traffickers are getting smart, and the drug dealers are getting smart. The drug dealers are now dealing antibiotics. So now they know the specific antibiotics to treat gonorrhea, chlamydia, and all these things, and they're the right ones, so they're dealing antibiotics and keeping the girls clean. So that's something to keep in mind. But also, you think about a person being like this creepy, I'm going to fast forward. These slides are available on Blackboard, or they will be if they're not already. You think of someone being creepy, old man. I think of the scenario, creepy old man and young girl. That does not mix. That does not go together. But actually the scenario that will come to you maybe in the ER or wherever it might be, is usually a woman, pretty innocent enough, pretending to be mom or aunt or cousin or sister. And there'll be a cell phone maybe laying out just like this, but it's on. Traffickers on the other end listening to everything to make sure that that they're not going to speak up and say anything. And the girl, she's probably not going to speak. This older woman is going to speak for her. She won't have any identification on her. They'll pay cash or whatever. She won't have any insurance. And you also have to look for certain identifiers. Sometimes they'll have tattoos or branding on them. Even like sometimes barcodes, like their property type of thing tattooed on them. And I also saw a picture in an article that was about one girl that was rescued. She had a huge tattoo across her chest with a guy's name that was written backwards. And they said, what does that mean? And she said, so every time I look in the mirror, I know who I belong to. So this is something, it's a dark topic. I hate to leave y'all and go, oh, good night, everybody. Good night. It's a dark topic. It's something that I originally got into, and I thought, man, I'm ready. Let's go bang down some doors, and I'm ready to, get these people. And I'm like, okay, calm down, hold on. We just need you to go educate people. And I was like, okay, I can do that. So it's little bits. It's you think that you're going to rescue a bunch of girls, but it's just one person. I was talking to someone at a scope meeting, and this girl said, oh my God, now that you're saying all this, I was in the wards, and there was a girl. She actually was, unfortunately, mentally disabled. She didn't even know what was going on, really. And she was, I believe she had liver and kidney failure, and a lot of issues. She was really, really, really bad off. They tried to call the contact number, disconnected. When a man actually did call, they said, you need to actually come up here and sign some papers, have a release, and he never showed up and just kind of dumped her. So this, girl who was, I think she was like a third-year medical student, she was like, I know that girl was being trafficked. And so it's like this one person, that you might come across. And when I initially started coming into this, someone asked me the question, they said, so have you ever come across a human trafficking victim? And I thought about it for a second, and I said, I don't know. Because at the time, 5 or so years ago, I really didn't know. Like, maybe I did. Maybe I was in the ER at some point. Maybe I didn't. I just didn't ask the right questions. So asking the right questions, just keeping your eyes open, educate. If you want to be a part of SWAT, email me. All right. Good night, guys. Thank you. Thank you, ma'am. Thank you, sir. You can keep them if you want.
Do you want these?
I'll take them, yeah. Thank you. What's that?
Thank you for those.
No, I stole them from the Thanksgiving luncheon.
Oh, the Thanksgiving luncheon.
We had a faculty Thanksgiving luncheon today. I was like, I'm taking up plate treats for my people. Thank you, sir. All right. Oh, no problem.
Thank you so much.
Yes, thank you.
I think I wrote on it.
Oh, okay, thank you.
I want to organize.
Oh, thank you. It's fine. It's fine. Save a tree. We'll recycle. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks. Hey. Hi.
I have a question.
Sure. What you got?
I was curious as to your thoughts on the role that the Bible plays in determining basic human rights.
Oh, wow. That is deep. I think it's all up to interpretation. And that's what's so dangerous, because you have so many different versions of the Bible, and depending on who is doing the interpretation, you can take it any which way. I mean, people form extremist groups like cults and say it's in the name of, the Bible and Christianity and do horrible, horrible things. And there's all kinds of different religious groups that do that. And so I really think it's all up to interpretation, and that's where some of the human rights came from as far as being violated. Women and children and all kinds of things. So I definitely just think it's up to interpretation and how. Oh, I can help you, Brett. And so I'm just gonna leave it clean like that. What are your thoughts?
I think it's very foundational. Ultimately, there's like one correct interpretation.
Yeah.
Simply divinely inspired collection of
Absolutely.
But
absolutely.
Granted
It's just,
that
unfortunately, as humans, we're all flawed, and so it's come through us and filtered and kind of got it all in a sense.
in terms of translating the Bible, or in terms
I think
of
so. Our interpretations and our translations and our interpretations. Just a thought. Thanks a lot. Nice to meet you. What's your name?
I'm Tim.
Tim. Nice to meet you. Are you School of Medicine? Okay, cool.
Yeah.
All right. Nice to meet you, Tim.
Good to meet you
All
as
right. Well, have a wonderful night.
All right. Thank you.
Thanks.
Alright, got you in there.
You're about to get trapped.
Right through, yeah.
So it went really well. This was a lively group.
They are creepy.
Yes, they are so lively.
Like my
Oh wait,
that way with
oops.
it, yeah. But they're super engaging.
They are. They're
And
fun.
They
They were a
like
lot of fun.
to bring up what ifs and
Yeah. It was really. I was trying to watch the time and everything because I wasn't sure we were gonna have time. So yeah, it was good. It was lively.